In the heart of a young nation's fight for independence, one battle stood out, a battle that was as tragic as it was bloody. It was a day when brother turned against brother, and neighbors faced each other in combat. It was a battle fought not just with muskets and bayonets, but with divided loyalties and shattered alliances. It was a battle that tore at the heart of a centuries-old confederacy, one that would leave lasting scars across the landscape of upstate New York. Welcome to the untold story of the Battle of Oriskany, a pivotal and brutal confrontation during the American Revolutionary War. Chapter 1: The Road to War. The year was 1777, and the British Empire, facing an ever-growing rebellion in its American colonies, devised a bold strategy. General John Burgoyne would lead the main British army from Canada, moving south to seize control of the Hudson Valley. The goal? To split New England from the other colonies and deliver a fatal blow to the Revolution. But Burgoyne's forces weren't the only ones in play. Farther west, Lieutenant Colonel Barry St. Ledger led a secondary expedition down the Mohawk River Valley, intending to meet Burgoyne near Albany. St. Ledger's orders were to besiege Fort Stanwix, the key American stronghold in the valley. Chapter 2: St. Ledger's Expedition. St. Ledger's expedition was unlike any other force in the war. His army was a blend of British regulars, Loyalists, and a coalition of indigenous warriors from the Six Nations of the Iroquois Confederacy, primarily the Mohawk, Seneca, Cayuga, and Onondaga. One of St. Ledger's key allies was Joseph Brant Thayendanegea, a Mohawk leader and fierce Loyalist who believed that a British victory would best protect his people's lands from colonial encroachment. Under Brant's leadership, hundreds of indigenous warriors joined the British cause, turning what might have been a straightforward siege into something far more dangerous. Chapter 3: Herkimers call to arms. But as St. Ledger's forces prepared for their siege, word reached Nicholas Herkimer, the head of the Tryon County militia. Herkimer, a veteran of frontier skirmishes, knew that Fort Stanwix must be defended. On July 17, 1777, he issued a call to arms, rallying a militia from the farms and small settlements scattered across the Mohawk Valley. The militia that Herkimer assembled wasn't composed of professional soldiers. They were farmers, many of Palatine German descent, armed with hunting rifles and little formal training. But what they lacked in military experience, they made up for in passion and determination. With them came a contingent of Oneida warriors, led by the stalwart Han Yeri, who had thrown their lot in with the Patriot cause. Chapter 4: Into the Wilderness. On August 4, 1777, Herkimer and his force of 800 militiamen, along with 60 to 100 Oneida warriors, set out from Fort Dayton to relieve the besieged Fort Stanwix. They camped near the Oneida village of Oriskany on the night of August 5th, preparing for what they hoped would be a quick and decisive mission. Herkimer sent a message ahead to the fort's commander, Colonel Peter Gansford, requesting a signal, a cannon shot, to indicate that a Patriot sortie was ready to meet his advancing force. But as the hours passed without a response, Herkimer's captains grew restless. Accusations of treachery began to fly, with some questioning Herkimer's loyalty, knowing his brother had joined the Loyalist cause. Chapter 5: Ambush in the Ravine. Stung by accusations, Herkimer ordered his men forward. But as they descended into a ravine 6 miles from Fort Stanwix, the Patriots walked into a deadly trap. Concealed among the trees, hundreds of indigenous warriors and Loyalist soldiers lay in wait, led by Mohawk war chief Sankaraga and Corn Planter. The ambush was swift and devastating. The first volley cut down dozens of Patriot militiamen, and panic spread through the ranks. The road, surrounded by thick forest on either side, became a killing ground. Leading the advance, Colonel Ebenezer Cox was among the first to fall, and Herkimer himself was struck by a musket ball that shattered his leg, leaving him wounded and helpless in the chaos. Chapter 6: A Desperate Defense. Despite his injury, Herkimer refused to abandon the fight. Propped up against a beech tree, smoking a pipe, he continued to command his men with a calm and unwavering resolve. Under his direction, the Patriots rallied, fighting their way to higher ground. For hours, the battle raged in the narrow ravine. The Patriots, now fighting for their very survival, adopted new tactics. Herkimer ordered his men to fight in pairs. One would fire while the other reloaded. This method allowed them to maintain a steady defense against the relentless attacks from the indigenous warriors. The close-quarter combat was brutal. Men fought hand-to-hand, often with their neighbors and former friends. As the battle wore on, Herkimer's forces were pushed to the brink of destruction. Chapter 7: The Sortie from Fort Stanwix. Meanwhile, inside Fort Stanwix, Colonel Gansford finally received Herkimer's message. Without hesitation, he ordered a sortie. Led by Lieutenant Colonel Marinus Willett, 250 Patriot soldiers charged out of the fort, raiding the British and indigenous camps to the south. Willett's raid was a success. The Patriots seized supplies, personal belongings, and even important documents from the British camp. But the most significant effect of the raid was psychological. When the indigenous warriors heard that their camps were being looted, they disengaged from the battlefield, rushing back to protect their families and possessions. Chapter 8: The Battle's End. With the departure of the indigenous forces, the remaining Loyalist and British soldiers were forced to retreat. The battle was over, but the toll it had taken on the Patriots was staggering. Nearly half of Herkimer's force had been killed or wounded. Herkimer, though gravely wounded, survived the battle. His men carried him from the field, and an attempt was made to amputate his shattered leg. But the operation went poorly, and just 10 days later, Herkimer succumbed to his injuries. Chapter 9: A Divided Confederacy. But the Battle of Oriskany had far-reaching consequences beyond the battlefield. For the first time in its long history, the Iroquois Confederacy was divided. The Oneida and Tuscarora had sided with the Patriots, while the Mohawk, Seneca, Cayuga, and Onondaga had aligned with the British. This battle marked the beginning of an Iroquois civil war, one that pitted tribe against tribe, brother against brother. The Oneida village of Oriskany was burned by the Mohawk, and in retaliation, the Oneida raided and plundered Mohawk strongholds. The unity of the Six Nations, which had stood for centuries, was shattered. Chapter 10: Legacy of Oriskany. Today, the battlefield at Oriskany is remembered not only as a site of strategic importance in the Revolutionary War, but also as a place of great sorrow and loss. In Iroquois oral history, the site is known as a place of great sadness. The scars of that battle, both physical and emotional, have lasted through the generations. In 1883, a monument was erected to honor the fallen, and the site was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1962. The battle's legacy extends beyond the battlefield to the very fabric of America's history, remembered as a tragic and pivotal moment in the struggle for independence. The Battle of Oriskany was a turning point, a day of bloodshed, betrayal, and unimaginable loss. But through the smoke and chaos of that day, the seeds of a new nation were sown, a nation where freedom came at a great cost. If you found this untold story of the Battle of Oriskany captivating, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more epic tales from history.